This is the weekly sales meeting for June 25th, 2023. My name is Chris Fleming. You can reach me at chris@cdmediaconsulting.com or go to our website at cdmediaconsulting.com. Today's topic is the pattern disruptor. The idea of pattern disruption stems from basic human psychology. If you follow any of my material, you know I spend time studying and understanding human behavior. I am not a doctor in that regard. I don't even play one on television. The study of human behavior leads us to study NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming. It is the idea of diffusing automated and automatic responses to redirect and take control of any conversation. That is not to say you need to dominate the conversation, but more like directing or nudging the conversation to its desired outcome. This can be a subtle switch, a well-timed question, or clarifying statement. You can redirect the conversation by disrupting the basic human behavior of your conversation partner. It is a way to break people of the habitual responses acquired over their lifetime. Sometimes we pull a pattern disruption on ourselves to create new habits. It often occurs around January 1, when people are making resolutions involving change. It means we have to change the bad habits we had for the entire last year or even longer. Rather than talk about broken New Year's resolutions, we can disrupt that pattern and discuss our sales franchise. The goal of the pattern disruptor is to change the trajectory of the conversation. We want to tip the scale back in our favor. Making a well-timed or pointed interruption to the play will trigger a change in your conversation partner's brain. It will redirect the conversation down a path you can guide, rather than allow the tried and true business negatives to take over the conversation and eat up your time. In the world of selling, we face all sorts of objections and nonsensical reasons why our clients and prospects won't buy something from us. We have been taught from an early age to overcome objections to make the sale. Buyers have been taught from that same early age to object to certain things in an attempt to throw us off our game. They want to distract us from the conversation at hand. They want to send us down the rabbit hole of chasing false concerns. We eat up our own time with these imaginary problems, and so our buyers can run out the clock. In doing so, they put pressure on us and our sales process. The hope is this time pressure will convince us to settle for less than what we are worth to make the sale, or time runs out on the offer and nothing happens. Sales trainer and speaker Jeffrey Gitomer claims testimonials are the best way to beat down the price objection and win the sale. He may be right to a degree. I love testimonials. The power of somebody else saying exactly what you have been saying, but from their point of view, and it is a business peer, that makes it better than anything you can utter at the moment. But I will tell you about the best, most effective method I ever saw. It was the most non-threatening, confidence-building conversation I ever witnessed to overcome any objection, and I have seen it work in any situation with every type of seller. The seller minimized the customer's concern with a simple qualifying phrase. My seller said, "Is that really important to you?" It was a pattern disruptor. That simple phrase does a number of things, including making you the expert in the conversation. It establishes a hierarchy in the conversation that will put you in the driver's seat. It gives you the authority to direct the conversation where you see it needs to go next. Most buyers believe that sellers behave in a certain way, and when tossed an objection, serious or otherwise, certain responses are expected. When the seller does not behave in the manner expected, the pattern is disrupted. When this happens, business can be conducted on equitable terms. It is a simple matter of minimizing the objections. The French political philosopher Joseph de Maistre claimed, "There is no philosophy without the art of ignoring objections." I'm not suggesting you ignore it, but minimalize it with a great pattern disruptor. This requires belief in your own ability, the confidence to deliver this line with authority, and the intestinal fortitude to not be spun by what happens next. You cannot be worried that the pattern disruptor will be ineffective. It is always effective. It is as it is labeled, something that disrupts pattern behavior. Use that confidence to take it one step beyond. Be assuring. It is another complete pattern disruptor. Repeat the phrase. Really, is that important to you? Because if it is, I will spend an inordinate amount of time on that issue, but I don't think it is. What is important to you is getting more customers to walk through your door. Let me show you how our plan will do that. It is a very simple statement of fact. It is a redirect to shift the focus from the pretend objection. Those pretend objections are the ones customers think they should throw at you because they have been trained to do so. And that training was provided for free by us and others like us. They know when they throw out a price objection, a competitor objection, or a product objection, we will take the bait and run with it. What happens when you don't behave in a predictable manner? It is a pattern disruptor and one of the best I have ever seen executed. It works on any possible objection every time. When I first saw this method in action, it was about media ratings. The company I worked for at the time did not pay the extortion fees charged by the media ratings company. Our competitor spent inordinate amounts of money on these services. Because of that investment, they hammered this point. They led with rating information whenever they made a sales presentation. Their presentations were 99% about how great they were. They were only 1% about what they could do for the customer. But they did an excellent job of convincing the buying community that ratings were the only currency by which to buy our services. And they could be effective because they had ratings, as if nothing else happened in the marketplace unless it was measured by the media ratings behemoth. Even though the methodology was archaic, it was still the currency of record, thus the only game in town. Customers had been trained over time to ask this ridiculous question, all in hopes that competitive sellers would chase the rabbit. This worked tremendously well for most buyers. Throw out the rating objection and salesperson X will run out the clock on themselves. Not so if we use the pattern disruptor. Is that really important to you? If it is, I will spend an inordinate amount of time going over it with you, but I don't think it is. What is important to you is getting more customers to walk through your door. Let me show you how our plan will do that. This stopped that pattern from ever developing. It switched the conversation from what we did to what we can do for that business customer. American self-help author Wayne Dyer put it this way: if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Changing the focus of the conversation changed the way our customers looked at the situation. He was no longer viewing the world as he was taught by the competitor. He was now viewing the world based on what mattered most to him and his business, and that was through the cash register. Over the past several years, we have learned to use "How have you been?" as a pattern disruptor on the telephone. It does what we described. It changes the tone and diffuses resistance. You have asked about their well-being. Hard to turn down an invitation like that, no matter who you are. You might morph that into something like, "Hey, Johnny, how's your morning treating you?" This idea of concern disrupts the normal pattern of the cold call. People are receptive to and willing to tell you how they are feeling, if they are feeling better or worse, and how the current climate is treating them. It has become a common bond among business people, but it is starting to become a pattern. It may need its own disruptor in the not-so-distant future. Remember, many of our customers get 20 and 30 calls a day, all from people in the sales profession, although not all are as experienced and proficient as you. If you sound like everyone else, you get treated like everyone else. We want to interrupt that pattern. But because they sound like everyone else, our customers and prospects know how to respond to them, and that response will get them to go away. That is the whole point. When you sound boring and uninteresting, it is a telltale sign that you are about to waste their time. When you sound different, that shifts you over into the interesting column. You have a better chance of success. Work on understanding what the daily routine is for your customers and be a disruptor. These will evolve over time. We used to disrupt the pattern by asking, "Did I catch you at a bad time?" Evidence now points to that being so routine, our customers are responding with "yes," and then hanging up. People are so crunched for time, they use any excuse to get out of talking to a salesperson. So pattern disruptors need to evolve. As mentioned, "How have you been?" is becoming passé. What will you use to change this pattern? It is worth thinking about and planning ahead. I have found asking a pointed question in the opening about something I read or something I heard can open a conversation. It works best with someone I already have a working relationship with, and they have had an in-depth business conversation with me at some point. Your pattern disruptors may change over time. If your methods become routine, you may have to interrupt yourself. For now, we can make the bold assumption that we are better trained than most sellers. So we are disrupting their patterns, not our own. Whether it be on the telephone, in person, via email, or carrier pigeon, think about ways to be different. Think about ways to stand out. Think about ways to interrupt the pattern on the receiving end. It requires some training, some thought, and some practice. Once you buy into this method full time, you will see your connection rate increase. And it works much better than taking their bait and running out the clock on yourself. That is a self-inflicted wound. There are many pattern disruptors you can expect to get. Because you know they are coming, you can practice your response. Make a list of common bait customers throw at you and plan your appropriate redirect. Your goal is to take control of the conversation. To handle the customer-trained response, you can use your own trained response. I had a seller in the Carolinas who was well-versed in this technique. He amassed a collection of client statements. He made himself a pattern response set of responses which he memorized. He spent his free time studying and internalizing his responses. This way, when they came up, he could corral them and take control of the conversation. The more he did it, the better he got at it. Imagine that. Practice your favorite pattern disruptor in your sales conversation. It is the only way to be effective using this method. Practice it as a way to overcome most objections. Have a pattern disruptor. Most businesses are not objecting to what you have presented. They are objecting as a matter of course. They believe they are supposed to do so to be in a better negotiating position. By taking away that leverage with a solid pattern disruptor, we tip the seesaw of leverage and negotiation back in our favor. As it stands, we know objections are coming, and some are well rehearsed. If we are effective in moving the conversation back to what is important, our success rate will increase. Will you win them all? Most likely not, but you will double and triple your success rate, and that creates both success and confidence in every seller, including you. My book, Yes, I'm a Salesman, You Can Be Too, is now available on Amazon.com. If you like what you have heard here today, please consider ordering one or two. You can always send one to a friend. Go to cdmediaconsulting.com right now and follow the instructions to order.